Okay, I'm very happy to be joined by Luis Gurule, who is a man that many consider to be the best flyweight outside of the major organizations, and he is back in just a few short days. Fury FC in 96, September 22nd. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. When you hear those words, best flyweight outside of the major organizations, because I mean, this isn't something I'm saying. I've heard lots of people say this, people who have seen you at Fury. What comes to mind for you? What are the things that you think of when you hear that?
I think it's just a testament to my training partners and my coaches. I mean, I train with, I think is going to be the next title holder at 125s in the UFC, Brandon Royval. I think he has that title this by this next year. So yeah, man, it's all coming together. It's all the hard work's paying off. I'm doing all the right things, training with all the right people. So it's not just me. There's a lot of people that go behind it.
Of course, and I know you were just back from a session at Factory X. How was it? How is everything going down there? And how are these next few days going to look for you as we get towards the fight?
Yeah, so I've actually left Factory X with Brandon Royval and Alex Hernandez, and right now we're training at the UFC gym in Lone Tree. So we wanted to strike out on our own. We're kind of being a little more individualistic with all of our training, and just really trying to sharpen everything up. So that's been great. I feel like I've gotten a lot better this camp. I feel like all my skills have improved across the board. And yeah, this next week's just going to be, dialing it back, no more sparring. Right now it's just getting the weight dialed in.
Yeah, what was is there a specific reason for leaving that you're okay talking about, or is it just a case of, that's a very big gym, there's so many guys to focus on, and sometimes people like a smaller thing where they can just focus on themselves a little bit more and really
Yeah.
feel like the priority.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of more along those lines rather than any like, big major things. It was just, yeah, we felt like it'd be a little better if me and Brandon and, Alex could just train with a couple of coaches and just really sharpen everything up and not have to, kind of cater to the big masses instead of just an individualistic approach.
Yeah, obviously you talk about rounded Royval in super glowing terms off the start there, but I mean when you're a guy like yourself who you're still fairly in the early stages of your career, perfect guy to have around you, right? Like you say you think he's going to be the champion soon. He just beat Moreno. He fought for the title not that long ago. I mean, there's not many better people to have close to you, is there?
Yeah, exactly. And, I've been watching him since I started fighting at Factory X and learning from him. So it's been a great one to kind of look at and just his work ethic, the way he fights out there, it's super exciting. I don't think it's hard to call him like one of the most exciting flyweights that the UFC has. So yeah, it's just super inspiring, and it makes me want to push myself harder to be a good training partner to him, try to help him out with his fights. He does the same to me. The whole crew is going to go out to Houston for my fight. I'm going to help him out with his fight when he's fighting Tyra out in Vegas. I'm going to go out there with him. So it's just been great. It's just constantly, pushing each other forward and forward and forward, constantly pushing each other to get better.
Yeah, of course, Brandon Royval, big fight there against Tyra, main event in October at the Apex. And it's a main event for you coming up in just a few days as well. You're fighting Jacob Silva, who I know you touched on Instagram is the most experienced guy you've fought today. He's got
Mhm.
over double the fights that you have. He's been on the Contender Series twice. He's a former Fury flyweight champion. What were your thoughts when his name was presented to you for this fight?
I think it's a great matchup. I've watched him a few times fight. He's been on a few of the cards that I've been on, but I think my style and his matches up very well for me. You know, he he's a gritty guy. He's hard to finish, and he's super experienced. So I think it's going to look really good. If I can go out there, I finish it within the 5 rounds. If I don't, go to decision, I think it's going to look super good for me. I think it's going to be the win that pushes me up into the UFC.
How do you feel you match up together skill set wise?
Skill set wise, You know, came from a wrestling background. I just haven't had to use it much in any of my fights. I get too excited about striking and get carried away sometimes. Um, but you know, I feel like he's kind of one dimensional on the feet. You know, he's got a real strong jab, got that overhand. Uh, his teeps are okay, but it's kind of real linear. I think I'm going to be able to really take advantage of the way that he fights. And I think my pressure is just going to slowly build, 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 and build. And eventually, you know, he's just going to crumble.
And you've obviously been with Fury for a few fights now, but with Fury comes UFC Fight Pass, huge opportunity to get eyes on you. Um, there's going to be a lot of people watching this fight that maybe haven't seen you before. How do you describe yourself to those people? What's the image you want to put in people's heads of Luis Gale who haven't seen you fight before?
Yeah, I always tell people I want to be like the Gaethje of the 125-pound division. Just nonstop excitement, always going for the win, all constant pressure. I want people to just fear getting in the ring with me. I want to be like a juggernaut, just constant pressure, constant forward. I want them to just they want to leave the cage, they want to quit, to just stop fighting me because it's the pressure just mounts and mounts and mounts. I'm just going to slowly drown them and just anything they throw at me, I'm not going to be phased. They have to worry about what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about what they're doing.
Yeah. I always like to talk about development, but it's kind of crazy when I look at your record because you're 8-0 and your first amateur fight wasn't until post-pandemic,
Yeah.
which feels really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also you started quite late in life compared to a lot of people, it feels like.
Yeah.
What was it that kind of was there a different plan for you that at some point you're like, oh, I'm gonna try and like go all in on this, or what's the origin story, let's say?
Yeah. So I was actually after college, you know, I had wrestled.
Yeah.
I had a few injuries in college, so I didn't
Mm.
quite get, you know, to where I wanted. So I saw that competitive itch. I was working as a geologist. I'd always be gone. I started getting that itch to compete again. So I started looking around town for a jiu-jitsu gym, which I found at Factory X. You know, I liked that I was able to train with all these MMA fighters. I was like, oh, this is kind of more my style. You know, it's not traditional jiu-jitsu. And everyone's, you know, real hard nosed in there, real gritty. So I was like, oh, this is fun. It feels like a wrestling gym, a wrestling practice. So I started doing that like, you know, maybe every few weeks, I'd be back home for a little bit. I'd go do jujitsu. I start getting pretty good. I was like, oh, maybe I'll, you know, or something. It'll be fun to just box, learn some Muay Thai. Start doing that. Start getting pretty good at that. And I start beating some of the fighters at jujitsu with my wrestling and stuff. And they're like, man, you should really think about maybe quitting and fighting. And I was like, no, you're stupid. I have a career. But then I started like beating him more. And then I was like, well, maybe you're not so dumb. Maybe I'll try it out. So yeah, I saved up some money. It took him a while to convince me, but yeah, saved up some money and I went all in on it and just hit the ground running. Didn't start back. I said I'll give myself, you know, 3 or 4 years. I'm just gonna try it. If I'm not good at it, it's fine. I just don't want there to be any regrets. So I was like, whatever. I'm gonna give it my all for the next few years, and yeah, the rest is history. 10-0 now in total. You know, 8-0 as a professional, and you know, was a great decision in my opinion.
Yeah. Are you still practicing geology at all or no?
No, no, just no more geology. Now the only rocks over here are these hands.
Perfect. That like you need like I mean, I know you've got your nickname, but you need like a geology related nickname. That feels like
Yeah,
there's
right.
a
All I know, John Lineker kind of
yes,
stole that hand of stone. You
yes.
know, I gotta, gotta think of a good one that goes up with that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a good decision. It's gone perfect so far for you. But it's been a few months since we last saw you in the cage. It was back in April, and like I like to talk to guys about the development. So thinking back to the Lewis Galley that we saw back in April, what's going to be different about the version of you stepping into the cage next week?
I feel a lot more well-rounded, especially, I think leaving a Factory X was a great decision for me. I feel like it sharpened my skills on my feet a lot. And I feel like just being able to blend that wrestling background that I have with my striking, this whole camp has felt phenomenal. So I feel like you're going to see a much more well-rounded fighter, but also a lot more dangerous fighter on the feet, where I feel like defensively and offensively, my skills have improved drastically since the last fight.
Yeah, obviously you're undefeated, like we said. Like we said, it feels like you're next up, one of the best flyweights outside of a major organization. Do you have that kind of journey in mind of like how you want to time everything out, what the plan is, or are you just taking it as it goes?
I mean, right now I'm taking it as it goes. Definitely not looking past this next Sunday. But you know, God willing, I get that win, I get that finish. Ideally, my head, the dream is I'd be able to go out there with Brandon Royval, fight on the same card with him in the UFC. We both get those wins. That would be ideal, hopefully. But I'm just taking it as it comes right now. All I can control is myself and how I'm training, my diet, everything that goes around, uh, fighting in general. But so I try not to stress myself out too much. I want to get in by this time or on this card. But yeah, hopefully after this, I put on a great performance and become truly undeniable for that next step.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because it seems like they're taking a lot of people from Fury, in particular for the Contender Series this year.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's conversations there with the organization or if it's just a coincidence. Have you had kind of talks in that direction or?
Yeah, there's been some talks on it. I've gotten a couple short notice offers to the UFC already. But unfortunately, a couple of those have just fallen through due to complications that weren't from my end. Either the other guy got sick or they had to pull out. But I was definitely optioned for some recent cards, which was super cool and very validating. We're on the right track. We're doing all the right things. Just being able to say yes to those opportunities is a great win for me. Just, my weight's on point, my mindset's on point, my training's good, my cardio's good. I'm just trying to make it to where, there's never a possibility in my mind that I lose if I say yes to a short notice fight. My confidence is rock solid right now. I have all the faith in the world in myself and my team. So I'm just ready for any opportunity.
Your confidence is rock solid. I like what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you able to kind of say what those opportunities were or no?
Yeah. What was it? A few weeks ago, man, I don't remember his name. I'm terrible at this. They'll tell me a name and I'll just say, yeah, man, just whatever. I don't care who it is. I'll say yes.
Yeah, of course.
It was a Brazilian guy. He ended up getting food poisoning that week. They had told him the day before, your fight's off. He went and ate, got food poisoning, got sick, and it ended up falling through. But we're right there. It's I'm fairly certain, by the end of the year we'll be in the UFC. So that's all that matters.
I mean, when you're getting those offers, it's like it's got to be a confidence boost, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's coming. I have all the faith in the world in my management, my team. There's some big things that are coming, and we'll definitely put on a good run in the UFC.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I have a quick fire segment, so I'm just gonna ask you some quick fire questions for at you. Okay. Favorite food,
Favorite food, Nashville chicken sandwich.
favorite drink,
Uh, Honeydew boba.
favorite breakfast cereal.
Favorite breakfast, Captain Crunch.
Yeah. Favorite movie. This,
Mandy. It's a weird Nicolas Cage movie, and I love it, and my wife hates it.
that was quick. That's usually one that gets fighters thinking. They usually nail in the first three, but when it gets to favorite movie, they're stuck.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my wife were just talking about it. I either
Yeah.
like really weird movies or just really dumb movies like Hot Rod or Step Brothers.
Favorite TV show.
That one's a harder one. Um, Midnight Gospel. It's a weird Netflix like podcast cartoon.
Favorite musician.
Amigo the Devil.
Favorite sport other than MMA.
Mm, Probably judo. Wrestling. Wait, no, wrestling. It's wrestling. All my wrestling coaches would kill me.
Did you watch much of the wrestling in the Olympics?
Yeah, I did. It was a bummer about the U.S. I thought we really had the chance to take
The
everything.
women did great. The US women
Yeah,
did great, right?
yeah, the women did great, but it was, man, Japan just came out of nowhere and just destroyed everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to watch a lot of it, but like I'm from the UK. We don't have any wrestlers.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I
Yeah.
know. I'm obligated to like the Japanese team as well. In high school, I had a Japanese wrestling coach, and he taught me a lot of judo and a lot of wrestling. So I got a lot of love for them.
Yeah. Favorite fight.
Favorite fight would probably be it was actually the first Forrest Griffin and Bonner fight.
Yeah.
Uh, that was like the fight that when I was little, I watched that fight with my dad, and I was like, man, that was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, that'd be super cool to fight. And then I was like, oh, that's stupid. You'll never do it. And then I ended up doing it like years later. So
Yeah.
I always remember that fight of like watching it with my dad and just thinking like, this is crazy.
How about favorite of your own fights?
Favorite of my own fights would probably be the Lazoya fight. That was like the first fight that started going past the first rounds. And I remember thinking, holy shit, I haven't finished him yet. This guy's super tough. And then I started landing elbows, and that was like, oh, I can I can land elbows. That's cool.
Yeah. That's a good win. He's a good guy.
Yeah, yeah, and he's won a few after that fight too. So
Yeah. Um, Favorite fighter.
um, probably Rod Tang
Yeah.
over at One FC. I like how he fights.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a bummer that he didn't get to fight in Denver last week, but I mean, yeah, that's
No,
it's
I'm
always
so bummed
crazy.
out. That would have been so cool to see.
Yeah. Did you go to the Denver card?
No, I didn't. I didn't get the chance to. I really wanted to. I was so bummed I missed it. But like, I had like Liam Harrison. I love him, and then
Yeah.
Haggerty and Superlek, and like these guys are awesome. That was
Yeah,
a
that's
cool opportunity I got too, where One FC wanted me to fight for them for that card,
yeah.
but I would have been locked into a contract with them, and their MMA division is kind of slow. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean it's there's a lot of talk about the way things are going over there, and especially regarding their contracts, especially regarding MMA, that like,
yeah,
maybe it's not making that much money for them, and they're kind of, it's a tricky one.
yeah, exactly. So we didn't want to get stuck in limbo or something. So I had to decline that one, but that would have been cool to fight on the same card with them.
Yeah. Favorite submission to practice.
Um, Probably Ezekiel choke. I
Yeah.
never get it, but I love
But
trying it.
you keep trying. That's the important thing.
Yeah, me and my coach Rafa, we have a running joke on like just trying to hit an Ezekiel choke from dumb positions and getting close to it.
Yeah. Funniest person you've met in MMA.
Probably Brian Mitchell. He's another pretty good. He's a good bantamweight over at Factory X. He's like one of my best friends, and that dude's hilarious.
And the best piece of advice you've been given.
Best piece of advice I've been given is just don't quit. Um, if another man can do it, so can you. And that's my dad told me that when I was super little. We were working on a car, and I couldn't get a bolt off. And he was like, no, I put it there. You can get it off. And I was like, I can't. He was like, if another man could do it, you can too. And that stuck with me. And, I saw, Royval and all these other fighters, living out their dream. And I was like, man, why can't that be me? And that was probably one of the most impactful things I've ever heard. And I've just carried it with me, throughout my life.
Yeah. Want to thank you for taking the time today, Luis. Fury FC in 96, September 22nd, Houston, Texas, UFC Fight Pass is where you can see that one. Just finally, give us a hard sell. When yourself and Jacob Silva step into the cage, what can the people expect?
And you're going to pay for the whole seat, but you only need the edge, brother. You're going to see blood, and it's going to be a war. It's going to be a tactical war. You're going to see a sweet knockout. You're going to see blood, and you're going to see me with my hand raised at the end.
Well, you've sold it. I'm excited. I was already excited, but I'm even more excited now. It's probably going to be like 4 a.m. on a Monday morning here, but I'm going to be watching.
Awesome.
I'm going to have my UFC Fight Pass logged in for that one. Luis, thanks for taking the time. Best of luck, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.